Remember the good old days before the war, days when your car was no more than the worry of a monthly installment and the road was yours, open? Let's go to the sea. What about a picnic? Let's go to the Derby. Let's see the favorite romp home last. The King's Highway. Ever thought what that meant? Food and drink, the raw materials to clothe us, and everything to light and build and warm our homes came along the road. The roads are the arteries through which the lifeblood of our community flows. The man who hinders that flow is a danger to all the rest of us. It's up to those of us who use the roads to see that we don't misuse them, especially now when we're at war. Especially you, who are being trained to handle a variety of service vehicles. Even those of you who are fully trained drivers can benefit by looking at things from a fresh angle. The war has changed a lot of things, but the nation's everyday life must go on. Civilians are serving the cause just as we are, and we depend upon them just as much as they depend upon us. We've all got to use the roads. We must keep the rules. The highway code was drawn up for your safety as well. Not only are wartime accidents more serious than peacetime ones, they're more likely to happen. There are more ways now in which the careless or thoughtless driver can play the fool. Children, for instance, like sailors, are all over the place. Some schools are closed, others open at all sorts of odd hours. You can never tell when the youngsters will be safe in the classroom. Evacuated town children used to playing in some quiet side street think it's just as safe to do it in a village street. And when there's an accident, don't blame their parents. It's 10 to 1 that fathers in the services and probably mothers doing war work. They can't look after them, so it's your duty to look out for them. And when you come across this sort of thing, remember the father of these kids may be a service driver himself. Make it a rule of ladies first. There's another snag about wartime driving. There are more things to distract your attention. This chap probably was thinking, if I only had wings. Well, if he goes doing that sort of thing, he'll get them all right. You can only rub a neck at war damage while driving a service vehicle at the risk of doing some more damage on your own account. Yes, I know, there are plenty of things to distract your attention, but only one vital thing to remember. Keep your eyes on the road in front. Not so much traffic, you'll notice, as in peacetime, but what there is, infinitely more essential, all of it. This damaged bomber, for instance, on the way to the repair shop, should be in the air again within a week, but that depends on it reaching its destination safely. There's another special wartime condition. Almost everyone is working at something new or strange to it. So be prepared to meet a lot of new and inexperienced drivers, and many who, although used to ordinary traffic, are handling far queerer loads than ever they did in peacetime. It's only common sense to assume that the unexpected is always just about to happen. Finally, there's that extra special wartime complication, the blackout. After dark, think of a number, the number of things that might happen to you in daylight, and double it. Every damaged vehicle means the sidetracking of skilled workers, apart from the precious material used to put it on the road again. Remember, any accident is waste. Waste of time, waste of labor, waste of the skilled care of the doctors, nurses, and ambulance men, perhaps waste of human life. Every time you take a risk on the road, you are throwing a spanner into the works. Waste is another form of sabotage. There is no room for waste in war. Remember, you're now in one of the fighting services. By carelessly causing injury or death or wrecking valuable equipment, a driver imperils the traditions of that service and, quite directly, helps the enemy. Don't let that ever be said of you.
clear that one off for the midday now, will you, please? Come in. Good morning, sir. Good morning. What can I do for you?
I'm Pritchard, Ted Pritchard from C Warehouse, sir.
Oh, Mr. Stevenson's department.
Yes, he suggested I came to see you, sir.
What can I do?
Well, you see, I've had my medical some time ago and passed fit. And now I expect to be called up at any minute.
Oh, dear, that means... Oh, well, that's my way. What are you going in?
Well, that's what I wanted to see you about. I hope to get into the transport section.
Yeah?
And I was wondering whether you'd let me go out on a journey with a good driver so that I could pick up a few tips.
Well, that's a very good idea. Today, if you like.
Oh,
Please,
thank you, sir.
Oh, Stevenson, can you spare Pritchard for the day? I want to send him out on a job. What? Oh, thanks, yes. We go. Let me see, let's take out the two-comer today. Oh, it's Bill Morris.
Bill Morris? Why, he's the very chap. He was in the transport section in the last war, sir.
Oh, well, then it couldn't be better. They're loading up the lorry now. Just go and give them a hand.
Very good, sir.
Ready, Johnny?
Thank you, sir.
Go.
Morning, Bill. Oh, I thought you'd joined up. Well, I'm beginning to call up papers in a day or two, I expect. I'm going to try for the transport section. That's why I asked to come along with you today.
Well, what good will that do you?
Well, there's much you don't know about driving, and I thought I might pick up a few tips.
Well, here's the first one. Stow your load properly. Have a look at that. Some of that will be off when we hit the first bit of bad road.
Okay, Bill.
There's no sense in taking a load of goods to somewhere in England and leaving half of it somewhere else.
Is there only one length of road by the place, Bill?
It always is. Or only one loose nut, or one cracked plug, or one frayed wire, and there you are sitting on your behind for a couple of hours miles from the nearest pub, just because nobody's noticed it.
Okay, Bill, I'll give it a once-over.
Yours?
Oh, thanks.
It's parked on the cylinder head. It's only short in a couple of plugs. Good thing I gave it the twice over.
Oh, yes, I learned to drive, but that's about all.
Well, that's something. Now you've got to start learning manners.
Manners?
Yes. It all boils down to that. Everything you do on the road is either good manners or it's bad manners.
I suppose so. Well, I want to find out which is which.
I see plenty of both on this trip. You always do. Look at that chap. I bet he never learned that signal in his training school. He's either going to turn to the right or the left, or maybe he's just pointing out where his Aunt Fanny used to live.
Just laziness, eh?
Swank, more likely. Wants to pretend he's been driving for years. And it's an awful bore, don't you know?
Let's give him the word.
No. You don't need to pass a fellow like that. It's better to keep behind and well off his tail. You see what he's going to do. Suppose you learned your hand signals all right.
Oh, yes.
Well, don't ever get stuck in the way you make them. Whether you go into the Army or the RAF, make them as definite and clear-cut as though you were on parade.
Well, here's one chap who's doing his stuff properly.
Very nice, too. But look where he stopped. You see, I can't overtake without the risk of something coming around that bend. Now I've got to take his word as safe to overtake.
But when another driver signals to overtake, isn't he responsible for seeing that the road ahead is clear for you?
Not a bit of it. He means you can overtake him. It's up to you to decide whether you can do it in safety.
Well, how would you deal with this chap in front?
Now what? You see
what would have happened if I'd taken that signal as an all clear.
Well, it's all clear now.
Looks like it, doesn't it? And now he's going as fast as we are. You see, the faster he's traveling, the greater the distance I'd require to overtake him. And I reckon we just hit that stuff you see coming along.
That's what you call good judgment, eh?
Well, that's what you call lousy driving. To avoid hitting one car, you had to risk hitting another.
I suppose high speed is the cause of most accidents.
No, not so much high speed as the wrong speed. For instance, I saw a fellow the other day in a built-up area. He was well within the law, well under the speed limit, but he was going a lot too fast on the turn. Fact is, one driver can be a danger at 6 miles an hour, another one quite safe at 60.
Depends how quick he is on the uptake, eh?
Yes. Take the case of a driver traveling fast along a clear main road. First, he ignores the road sign and doesn't slow down. It takes him 5 seconds to think about sounding his horn, and another 5 before he thinks of reducing speed. So he has to jam his brakes.
Of course, he'd left everything so late that he hadn't time to signal to anything that might have been behind him.
Sort of bloke would get himself into trouble if his missus started a rough house. His brain wouldn't work quick enough to dodge the rolling pin. Now take another sort of driver in the very same situation.
Yes, now I see what makes the ideal driver.
Oh, he wasn't as good as all that. He didn't slow down at the warning triangle.
Anyway, I reckon this chap will be quick enough to dodge his old woman's rolling pin.
Well, perhaps he might. But the ideal husband smells trouble before it's in sight.
Sort of gets ready to dodge before he opens the front door, eh?
Yeah, just like the ideal driver. He's looking and ready for trouble even before he sees it.
Well, this chap tackled the danger all right when it did show up.
Oh, that was only just luck. He mightn't have had time. That car might not have come out of the side road until he was right on top of it.
What's that bit of shorthand mean?
That's not shorthand. That means there's no speed limit on this stretch of road.
But it is shorthand. I did a bit of pitment once. It's the sign for J.
J? Oh, that suits me. J, whenever you're going along a stretch of road, think of J. J Walker. Then you'll be ready for him when he pops up. He always does.
Do drivers rarely bother their heads about all these different signs?
Well, some do and some don't. That's one of the don'ts.
But you haven't been taking things carefully.
Ah, that's the golden rule of the road, Ted. Always take things carefully. Always reckon the other fellow's going to do the wrong thing. There's a fellow who hasn't forgotten what he's been taught.
All right, chum. You go first.
You want to be careful of trailers, Ted. If they aren't looked after properly, they wag all over the road. And you can't tell who's been looking after that one. That chap's too close. He's just asking for that trailer to swing out and hit him.
That lorry driver's a fool twice over. Just because the other fellow wants to pass him, he shoves on speed. Now he's going too fast to pull up in an emergency.
Says the other chap, for that matter.
Ah, it's a different thing. That lorry's carrying 5 times the load of the other. Just think what that extra weight means to his brakes to bring him to a standstill.
There. You see, that trailer's going too fast to pull up.
You'll find the services have a lot of unusual jobs, but need more careful handling than that fellow's given his. Yes, I saw a fellow the other day.
You never know what these things will do when they strike a slippery patch. First the tail slides round, and then she goes into a spin. Then, if you let the clutch in too fiercely, she'll buck.
Must be a bit tricky turning these very long jobs into the narrow opening.
Oh, it's all right if you use a bit of common. Don't take the turn too suddenly.
But when you're making any kind of turn with these long vehicles, don't forget that faraway tail of yours.
It'll be interesting learning to handle all these different types.
There's some tricky sometimes. You want to watch out for those servo brakes.
What are they safe?
Safe. Safe as houses. But on certain cars, they only operate when the engine's running.
Then where's the snag?
Well, coasting downhill to start up your engine. If it doesn't start up, you've got no brakes to pull up with. Notice how I get in off the road, Ted.
Yeah?
Always get off the highway, even if you're only going to park for a few minutes. That's a grand sight. That's perfect spacing. 60 yards between each 5 in a block, and 200 yards between each block. You can see how that allows other traffic free passage.
That last one seems to be losing position.
Yes, he's off speed on the rise. He hasn't changed down soon enough.
And that throws the man behind him out of position. We'll see what sort of a driver he is when he starts again. On a rise.
See, he rolled back. Took off his brakes a split second before he stepped on the gas. You must do the two things together.
Oh, Bill, I got something for you.
Oh, thanks.
I know. Something a lot more important than that. Your ignition key.
Well,
You have to immobilize the vehicle when you park it. Didn't you know that?
Didn't I know? Here, you immobilize yourself behind that and don't talk so much.
Still, it was a bad slip-up, wasn't it? For a driver of your experience.
Oh, I don't claim to be perfect.
Neither do I, for that matter. I've still got a lot to learn.
And how?
Eh?
You heard. You think you're a fully fledged driver just because you cut me out, eh?
No, I wouldn't say that. Still, I'm learning fast.
Well, let's just see how much you have learned.
Ah, an examination. Goody. Well, carry on, Peter.
Well, for a start, just imagine a situation like this. Can you see anything wrong with the way this fella has parked his vehicle? There's plenty of room for both up and down traffic to pass him, you see. He hasn't made that mistake.
No. He's put the car close to the curb, as he should do.
Ah, but he's wrong all the same. Take a look at that. That's the thing you should never do. Park at a bus stop. You see, all these stopping points have been worked out scientifically. And if you use them, well, it throws the public transport service out of gear.
I should never have thought of that.
That's one bad mark to you.
Well, that makes us all square.
Well, let's see what you can do with this one. Here's a chap who's made a stop for some reason or another and is about to move off again. Watch carefully. Now, where did he go wrong?
You can't catch me. He didn't go wrong. Right action, right signal, right everything.
That's what you think. Now, let's drag him back to where he started from. He's parked on a pedestrian crossing. That's against the law. And against common sense, too.
I reckon the law studies pedestrians a bit too much. After all, they're responsible for most of the accidents.
So you've got that bee in your bonnet.
Which bee?
The idea that pedestrians are a selfish, blundering lot of fools.
Well, they are mostly, aren't they?
Look, Ted, you'd call me a motorist, wouldn't you?
Of course.
Well, supposing I went out with a girlfriend for a walk, what would you call me then?
I don't know. I haven't seen a girlfriend.
You'd call me a pedestrian, wouldn't you?
I suppose so. As long as you kept on walking.
Oh, God, blimey, oh. Don't you see we're all of us pedestrians at one time or another? Yet you, and lots of other people, treat them as though they were a race apart.
I suppose I do. Well, that's the fault of those Felicia beacons.
What are you talking about?
Well, I always thought they're so appropriate a sign for pedestrians, with their nice, round, vacant expressions and absolutely nothing inside their heads.
Then that's something in your head that'll have to come out of it.
Perhaps.
But you can't go on calling all pedestrians fools, now that you realize you're one of them.
No, I can't very well, can I?
No, fact is, every human being has got the capacity to make a fool of himself every now and then. Sometimes he does it when he's at the wheel of a car, sometimes when he's crossing the road on foot.
So we're each of us sort of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other.
Yes, and don't forget that the motoring fool is much more dangerous than the walking fool. He's in charge of a deadly weapon, a weapon that can kill. The pedestrian is unarmed.
But is there any special tips on careless walkers or that kind of thing?
Plenty. If you're hugging the pavement in a crowded thoroughfare, watch out for the man in a hurry who steps off a crowded pavement into a roadway without making sure it is safe to do so. And look out for the chap who doesn't intend to miss his bus. That is, if every other vehicle on the road misses him. Then there's a fellow who can never make up his mind. Don't take any chances with him. He's been asking for trouble all his life. The marvel is that so far nobody's given it to him. And have a special care in twisty little country lanes where there's no footpath. Pedestrians are supposed to walk on the side facing oncoming traffic. But even then, they can't always avoid getting into an awkward spot.
It's queer, isn't it, that a quiet little spot like that can be as dangerous as a town street full of traffic?
More dangerous in a way. In towns, all the traffic dangers are more or less under control. First, you get the warning that you're entering a built-up area and have got to reduce speed. Then there are the beacons, which all sensible people make for when they want to cross the road.
It's a pity they don't make those crossings compulsory instead of letting the people wander all over the road.
All the more reason you should study those people that do use them. They are doing their best to help drivers. After all, they've as much right to cross the road as you have to drive along. And talking of crossings, I wondered whether you've noticed some of them are easier for pedestrians than others. This kind is easy for drivers and walkers as well. The pedestrian hasn't far to go before he reaches safety, and he only needs to look one way for possible danger. Here, it's not so easy for the man who, like the chicken, wants to cross the road. There's no halfway house. He's got to look both ways at once, or he may get it where the chicken got the chopper. So be extra careful at these points.
You think of everything.
Yes, I do, including time.
Here, half a minute.
Listen, my lad, when you're in the services, you'll have to stick to timetables. If you hang about eating and drinking and smoking cigarettes, well, you'll have to make the time up on the road.
Well, that'll be speeding. I should like that.
Speed bug, eh?
Why not?
Why not? Well, to start with, you've got to stick below the maximum speeds allowed, or you're for jankers. Get some sense into your head about this speed business. What's the good of taking risks for the sake of saving 30 minutes on a long journey?
Give me a bit of time to myself.
Perhaps it would. Perhaps a good long time. On your back. In a hospital.
Well, I'm learning. I noticed how you made sure it was all clear before you pulled out on the road.
Oh, it's just ordinary road sense.
What exactly is road sense?
Oh, I suppose I'd call it just plain common garden gumption.
The sort of thing that tells you when you see this to expect this. That tells you on wet or windy days to look out for people who are too busy to look out for you. That warns you not to make yourself a nuisance to other road users by stopping in the wrong place to ask the way.
The RAF station, you mean the aerodrome? I thought it meant the railway station, because if you wanted that, you'd long way off the road back 3 or 4 miles back this way. Then if you want the aerodrome, go right up this road here, and about 3 miles up, you'll come to a bit of pub called the Black Bull. You turn right there, not left. If you turn left, you go up by a pub called the Red Cow, and that will bring you on the main road about 2 miles this side of Fisherman's Arms. It's not much good going up there, because there's much beer there. They tell me they're having some in about next Thursday, but still, I should have there if I was you.
That teaches you to pick up hints from such things as shadows, telling you in advance of oncoming traffic. Road sense tells you you must look out for the other road users. It warns you never to overtake another vehicle at a crossing. It makes you realize the need to appreciate road conditions and give other vehicles plenty of room on narrow roads. And it warns you not to do this sort of thing on a wet road after a long dry spell. Road sense reminds you you must always pass an animal on the side of which it has been led.
That's just plain horse sense.
Yes, and it's the law too. And it tells you that while 30 miles an hour, most you're allowed to do in a built-up area, doesn't follow you can do it all the time without getting into trouble for dangerous driving. It tells you not to approach an entry to a main road like this, causing other drivers to think you're going to shoot across their front. Also, it tells you, when you are uncertain which road to take, the right place to stop and ask your way, and not make a wrong guess first, and then have to correct it afterwards with the risk of an accident. And it tells you always to make your hand signals as plainly and deliberately as, well, as though you were doing it for the first time under the instructor's eye. It makes you keep your eyes open for special wartime conditions, such as surface shelters built close to the roadway. It makes you remember they were put up to save lives, not to cut them short. And it warns you not to play fancy tricks at hot bridges. But, more important than anything else, road sense warns you not to lose your temper with other road users. It's tempting to pay out bad manners on the road with a sample of your own, but don't fall for it. Going too close to cyclists may put the wind up them, but it may also put them in hospital.
Well, it seems to cover almost everything.
Including that.
What's my road sense supposed to make me see and know?
That his loose tarpaulin wouldn't let you see your signals even if he made them.
I don't think he got it.
Here's another one that won't give you signals, because he can't.
Oh, of course. The driver's on the near side. So what?
This. If he has any savvy, he'll know what I want and keep well in.
Hope you noticed I gave him plenty of room as I overtook. Just in case.
Reckon you could fill a book with how and when not to overtake.
That's a fact. For instance,
Supposing you are following another car at any spot where you can't see the road ahead, you must on no account try to overtake. It's a simple rule. If you can't see and you take a chance, you'll get what's coming to you. But when you are sure the road ahead is clear, just take a look in your driving mirror to see that nothing is about to overtake you. Then signal that you are about to pull out.
I'm a bit hazy about the signalling business. What exactly does a driver do when he wants to turn left?
well, that's fairly simple if you've been driving as you should have been.
That is, keeping well over to the left. Signal the direction into which you are about to turn. Slow down and prepare to stop in case of pedestrians crossing, even though there's no marked crossing. You'll have to be more careful when you want to turn right. Make sure that nothing is about to overtake you. Give the signal you're turning right. Ease over to the crown of the road so that the following traffic can pass on your near side. And of course, you'll have to wait for any approaching traffic to pass before you make your turn.
There's a couple of fellas that ought to know better. Cars coming up behind him won't know there's no driver. They think he stopped for the red. And this fellow makes a third line of traffic when there's only room for two.
Oh, I don't see that matters much.
You will.
You're right again, Bill.
That's something you want to be especially careful of. Parking in the wrong place.
Don't ever leave your vehicle at a spot which forces other drivers to break the rules of the road.
It's off and out of blackout time, Bill. Any more driving tips before it gets too dark to see whether you're pulling my leg?
Plenty. For one thing, take those road signs seriously.
The red circle means that under the Road Traffic Act, it is an offence to disregard them. And this reminds you of the children. Don't forget they haven't had the time you've had to learn road sense. And that H-A-L-T not only spells halt, it means halt. On the other hand, this one doesn't always mean exactly what it says. It isn't always level. And you can't always cross. And you know what this means. The bus stops, the coach stops, but you go on. You may not have bothered about this one in peacetime, when you tootled along on your off the step, but it may be very important when you have a big load behind you. And it's common sense to keep behind the car in front when you see this, remembering that you can't put a quart into a pint pot. When you see this sign, change down using your engine as a brake. The steeper the gradient, the lower the gear. These things haven't been stuck up all over the country just for fun. They warn you of dangers ahead, which you may not be able to see for yourself. And remember, it's a good rule when you can't see to go slow.
Anything else?
I'll never forget Miss Emily Bright.
Who's she?
That's the trouble. She isn't. I saw a tombstone.
What's it say?
Here lies the body of Emily Bright. She put out her left hand and turned to the right.
Ain't that black tonight? Can't see right in front of your face.
What's the good of me putting up a black out if you're going to muck about with it? Want to get me into trouble?
Bit fussy, aren't you?
Fussy? You'd be fussy if them Nazis come along and dropped a bomb. Blimey, another load of crockery gone.
Sorry, Mr. Brown, I think it must have slipped on something.
Now, that's the first time you slipped.
I shouldn't slip up too often, Annie.
Hello, George.
Hello, Bill. Back again?
Yes, after a long journey. But we've dumped the stuff, thank goodness.
Usual?
Yes, George, twice. Suit you?
Sounds very good. What is it?
Oh, whatever they got on. You can't be fussy these days. Oh, and 2 teas, George.
Okay, Bill. Pretty black out tonight, isn't it?
Oh, so-so?
So, why, it's as black as pitch. I never get used to driving in that.
Of course you won't with your bellyache about it. You're beaten before you start.
Oh, sorry, Bill. If you and a few million others can do it, well, so can I.
Oh, that's the spirit. You'll soon get used to it. And you'll develop eyes just like a cat.
I reckon his 9 lives would be more useful.
You'll get through with one when I've given you a few more tips.
Thanks. Talking about tips, you seem to have picked up some of mine.
Eh? Well, I'm never too old to learn.
Well, now let's see how much you have learned. Now, take the case of a lorry driver who starts off on the wrong side of the road. He goes over the traffic lights when the red's up, goes down a turning marked no entry, then goes over a pedestrian crossing while there are people walking across it. Now, how many offences has he committed?
Oh, about 1,000, I think. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 at least.
No, none.
None? How do you make that out?
He hadn't got his lorry with him.
He hadn't... Oh! Oh! Here's a laugh for Yanni. This young man is trying to teach me something.
You're wasting your time, young man. There's nothing that he doesn't know already.
She's talking about driving, I hope.
I hope so. Now, let's get back to this blackout.
Yes, we'd better get back to the blackout.
There are 3 fools you've got to watch out for. One is the man who parks his car without any lights. The other is the man who parks his car on the wrong side of the road, facing the traffic. So you have to turn left, smack onto the footpath to avoid him.
Mm-hmm. And who is the third fool?
You are, if you drive beyond the limit of your headlights in a blackout.
I see.
Remember you were talking about shorthand a few miles back. When you come to think of it, there's a whole lot of shorthand signs on the road. They tell you all sorts of things. Some of them are very useful in a blackout or in fog. You'll find them painted on the road. This one tells you in the darkness that you are approaching a side road. These white lines dividing the traffic lanes are a godsend at night if you keep your offside wheels just inside them. And here's a bit of shorthand that keeps on reminding you to pull into the near side lane after you've pulled out to overtake another vehicle. And if you can't see anything else in a fog, this little row of studs will tell you that you are at a crossing. And this line of paint says, "Cross me at your peril." For you don't know what's coming round that corner. Well, I think that's about all. Oh, thank you, Annie.
Yet there's one thing that you haven't said a word about, and it's one of the most important.
What's that?
Reversing.
You're right. It is important. When you have to turn back for any reason, don't reverse into the main road against the traffic, like this chap. But do it like this. Now he looks out to see that nothing is coming up behind him on the main road. Like a wise man, he has decided to wait for an oncoming car. Well, there's nothing so confusing to an approaching driver as another vehicle reversing towards him. And now, as time has elapsed, conditions in the side road may have changed. So he has to make sure that it is still all clear behind him. By coming out nose front into the main road, he can pick the right moment to tread himself into the stream of traffic without making himself a nuisance to other road users.
But what about when you want to turn around in a narrow lane and there's no side turning?
I'm glad you mentioned that. You've got to be especially careful when you're back onto the verge. There may be a hidden ditch, or worse still, the ground may be soft. Always keep your rear wheels, your driving wheels, off doubtful ground. Or when you want to go forward, this may happen. But if it does happen, you'll have to scrounge around for something to give the wheels a grip, like big stones or balks of timber, sacks, or even branches broken off a tree. But the best thing is, don't let it happen.
Well, it's very good.
What was? The grove or my lecture?
Both. I've learned a whole lot today.
Ted, there's just one thing I'd like to say. Perhaps you think I've been making too much fuss about this need for care on the roads, and that it isn't all that important. But make no mistake, when you join up, and you finish your driving tuition, and you sit behind the wheel of a service vehicle for the first time, you've got a big responsibility. You're in sole charge of a powerful machine, which if you handle it recklessly, may cause all sorts of trouble. All sorts. From damage or delay to important war supplies, to injury or death to one of your fellow men. Listen, my lad, I've got to bring home to you the tremendous importance of driving carefully all the time. You've been to the movies a lot, haven't you? You've seen these pictures in the newsreels that show crowds of football fans. Take a look at these. What the novelist would call a sea of faces, eh? How would you like the job of counting them? Well, listen. More people than you see in that picture are killed or injured every year on the roads of Britain. Oh, Annie? That's okay.
Thank you.
Makes you think, don't it?
Yes, it is pretty grim. I never realized before how serious road casualties were.
Well, if you promise to keep that in mind when you're at the wheel of a vehicle, I reckon I'll have done my good deed for today.
I shall never forget it, Bill.
That's the ticket. Let's get off to Kip. Good night, George.
Good night, Bill.
Good night, Eddie.
Good night.
Oh, and good night, all you drivers of the services. I hope you've been able to pick up a wrinkle or two from my talk to young Ted. Of course, it may be that some of you may have thought it was a question of me teaching my grandmother to suck eggs, and that I was only telling him things that you knew all the time. Well, perhaps you're right, but we can all do with an occasional reminder. Well, anyhow, thanks for coming, and thanks for listening, and good luck.